Hi guys, welcome into another episode of the Queen City Soccer Show. I am Cole Godfrey, joined as always by Level Up Luke. Today's episode, we have very good news. Charlotte FC ends the regular season on a high note as they go up to the nation's capital and beat DC United 3-0 to continue their run of hot form heading into the postseason, where they have been drawn against Orlando City. We'll be playing down in Orlando this Saturday, and then the return leg in Charlotte for the first ever playoff match at Bank of America Stadium for Charlotte FC next Friday, November the 1st at 7:30. Luke, how you feeling, man?
Feeling great, man. Going into the game against DC, there was some speculation, there were some theories, game theory based on other results. Can we kind of pick our opponent for the playoff game? And our team decided just to leave it all on the field and let their performance determine the result. And I got to say that made me happy. That's my preference on that, is just play your own game and end the season on a high note, man. We destroyed DC, and the team has never looked better. It looks like a complete team right now. The last six games, we are in solid shape. The only team that could hold us back, even hold us down to a draw, was Miami, and that's the class of the league, the new record holder for most points in a season in MLS. And they couldn't beat us. I mean, if I'm Orlando, I'm shitting my pants right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what Dean said after last week's win, or 2 weeks ago when they won in his post-game press conference, was who would bet against us right now? And it's just, this club is in very, very good form. Brent Bronico is in tremendous form. That's 2 clean sheets in a row, so the defense is starting to gel back to the way we like. And obviously, another clean sheet for should be the MLS goalkeeper of the year in Christian Colina. And yeah, it's different because obviously we'll get into the preview a little bit, but Orlando, we've played them twice already this season. We lost 2-0 down in Orlando, drew 2-2 at the Bank of America Stadium, and we were also down to 10 men in that match. So a lot different times, a lot of things have changed. This roster's changed. And I will say, man, I would not want to play against Charlotte right now. They have that belief. Even the DC, man, DC had it all to play for in this match. And they had to win, or at least get a point to be able to be in that play-in game. And you've seen it in the first, 20 to 35 minutes. DC United pretty much controlled the game. Maybe even the first half, really. They kind of controlled the game. They were putting the pressure on, and Charlotte FC did a great job defending and soaking that pressure up. And then even, we'll get into it, but in that second half, being able to exploit some of the things that DC left open, it's just a good sign, a good feeling. It's a great day to be a Charlotte FC fan. And, yeah, man, looking forward to the playoffs.
Absolutely. I I kind of noticed something that we touched on previously. I don't remember if it was on a previous episode or on one of the spaces, but we had touched on the idea that part of Dean's philosophy here is controlling the ball out of possession. And it seemed like that was the game plan going into this one, start to finish. He wanted to give DC plenty of opportunities to hold the ball, push forward, and wear themselves out. And the lineup he went with to start the game, you're talking about your Junior Urso, your Brant Bronico, Patrick Ajiman, Pep Biel. I mean, these are players, of course, our back line, all of our back line. These are players that are going to wear you out. And that's what happened. DC had the attacking momentum throughout the first half, but they never, I mean, maybe one opportunity looked like it probably should have gone in for them. But for the most part, we just held them in check, and they came up flat in the second half. And that was what the team was waiting for. And Charlotte, really, the entire second half just dominated. Once we scored the first goal, it was over.
Yeah.
DC got desperate, and we just poured it on. And that's when the subs started coming in. That's when you have your Swiderski. That's when you have your uh, Kerwin Vargas, your I'm sorry, not Liel Abada, I meant to say. Your subs start coming in. Jerry Ronan, you got Jabril Diani, Jamie Patterson in the waning moments of the game. So, the subs can't come in and they really pour it on. And I love it, man. We have not had great luck at DC. And finishing the season on a win, getting up to fifth place, I think that's just such a shot in the arm for the team. I mean, with the momentum that we have at the end of the season, I just keep coming back to it. Like the momentum in the second half of the game, the momentum at the last stretch here of the season, it's all kind of coming together. I mean, am I crazy? Do you feel like this is a recipe that we've put together and now we're finally seeing the finished product?
Yeah, I think even a better sign is the fact that we're coming off of a bye week, and still able to come out and get the 3 points in pretty convincing fashion. I think that, keeping that momentum, like you were talking about, that momentum going through a bye week after you have that rest
Right.
week, and sometimes it's tough, man, for a team that's really hot, that to hit it, come up against a week where there's a bye and they're not playing, and because you said we see it all the time, if it's a great thing if you're a team that's not in form and struggling to get a bye week to kind of regroup. But on the opposite side of that, when you're a team that's flying high, and then you get a bye week, coming out of that bye week, sometimes you look a little sluggish.
Sure.
The fire, the intensity is not there. That's not the case. I mean, if if you've been watching soccer for any amount of time, you knew that obviously with the circumstances as they were with DC United, you knew that they were going to come out and try to press the issue. It's just it was a known,
Their
and to
playoff
be able
hopes
to
were on the
absorb
line.
that.
I mean, DC came back
Exactly.
tremendously just to even be in this position to be pushing for the
Yeah,
playoffs.
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, obviously they have the golden boot. They have the golden boot guy, Christian Benteke, and it's he's a danger, and
Yeah.
to be able to shut them down for that first half and soak up the amount of pressure they did, and then to come out in the second half, like I said, exploit some of the openings and some of the spaces that they were getting. It was just a Dean Smith masterclass, in my opinion. Uh, but we'll start with the lineup, and Charlotte FC come out, and obviously we got some players who've been on international duty, so they weren't starting. Obviously, the likes of Carroll, Abada, and Euronen. So Dean comes out with Big Pat up top, BL on the right, Kerwin Vargas on the left, midfield of Bronico, Westwood, and Urso. And then the back line, Nathan Byrne, Malanda, and Privet. I love that partnership, by the way. And then Tim
Yes.
Marine as the left back and Christian Kalina. So you had a little bit of a rotated side, and you still managed to pretty much just dispatch DC United pretty convincingly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it kind of played into a little bit of strategy here with the lineup because you had Swiderski and Liel Abada, and I'm not sure about Euronen, but I know at least Swiderski and Abada coming back from UEFA Nations League international duty, and they had just gotten
Mm.
back the night before. They said they were good to go, but I think Dean kind of said, "All right, well, we're going to put out the guys who have something to prove. We're going to put out Brant Bronico. We're going to put Pep Biel up in the wing. Let Bronico have that midfield position. Junior Urso, who's been a tremendous run of form here, and then Ajman in for Swiderski. So you have some of these like standard starting players sit the first half of the game, and you give it to the guys who are hungry coming out of the bye week. Instead of going with your starters who might be a little bit jet lagged, you give it to the guys who are hungry and have something to prove, and I think it kind of was a double benefit because not only do you rest your starters who probably need a little bit of rest, but you have players who are going to come out a little bit hotter after a bye week. So, like you were saying, that's a good way to fight that slump, that kind of look ahead to the playoffs. We've already clinched the position, or we're going to have a letdown look ahead, but not to be. I like Ronico and Urso right now. At the beginning of the season, I was highly critical of having Urso and Bronico on the field at the same time because I thought they really did a lot of the same thing. I have to tell you, man, Junior Urso is so improved in this system since the beginning of the season. I thought he was a serviceable kind of squad rotation player to start the season, and now I think he's a borderline starter. I mean, he's
Yeah.
showed a tremendous improvement within the system. I think it's probably chemistry with his touches and the way that he's moving in space and finding some outlet passes. How do you feel about Junior Urso in the starting lineup?
I like it. I mean, he played according to football. He played a 7.5 this match, and again, man, I think that he he brings that dog. He kind of I love having him out there with Bronico, and this is what I love so much about Dean Smith is he has his guys and he knows, but he plays the guys that he wants out there depending on the competition. It's not the same lineup every week, which it's great to have consistency. Don't get me wrong, but when you know you're going up against the DC United team, who like we've spoke about earlier in the podcast, where they're going to be coming out and trying to establish pressure and get on that front foot. To go more defensive and having Junior Urso and Brent Bronico both out there with Westwood, I think it's massive, and I think it's great to have. Like when you go down to Orlando, it's a home playoff match. They're going to be hyped. They're going to be. I would not be surprised to see Dean come out with a more defensive look like this, and I wouldn't be surprised if the return leg up in Charlotte, if it's not more of an offensive look with Abada, Biel, and Vargas and Kerwin. I'm not Kerwin. Jesus, Carroll out there. So, but when Junior is out there, dude, he's looked these past 4 or 5 games. He's looked incredible. Um, I just want to throw a couple of stats out there. Charlotte in their last 5 matches have scored 11 goals. This coming into this match, DC United was a 52% favorite to win. Um, and Charlotte just a 33% with a 15% on draw. So you were technically the underdogs, which is we can talk about that if we want to, but and Charlotte had not won an away game in the last 6 away matches, and that is great sign to go up there in a great atmosphere at DC and get a clean sheet and win 3-0 going into this away leg of the Orlando City playoff series. Um, I think that's massive. I think Junior Urso has a big role to play or a big part to play in that as well. Just looking at the statistics on this match, Luke, DC as we expected, they control possession. They had 59%, but it's kind of like that Latanzio effect of last year where we had the ball, we just went side to side, side to side. We were never threatening,
I hated that so
and
much. The
yeah,
build out of the
and
back, and
it
you
would
weren't actually building anything.
right, and with DC having that 59% possession, they only had 3 shots on target while Charlotte had 7.
Yeah,
So, like you said, Dean's strategy has been he has to be coach of the year in my opinion. Definitely, if they get by Orlando and make a deep run in the playoffs, how he's not coach of the year. I know There's gonna be some people talking about what's his name? His name's escaping right now down at Miami. But you got Lionel Messi, Luis
yeah,
Suarez. You, I mean, this is a lot different. This is a team that everybody was picking dead last to 12th in the East, and Serminti kept those receipts.
yeah. Absolutely. And um, Sir Mincy kept the receipts. That was a funny meme that the club posted. Cheers to the social media team. They took that screenshot that we were all circulating of the preseason predictions and had Sir Minty body slamming that preseason prediction, and even Weeby tweeted it and reposted it with, "Here's the case for Dean Smith Coach of the Year," on the Sir Minty tweet. Shout out to friends of the program, Ash Hamrick and Jorge Torres. I know they're very passionate about this point. I know I was very passionate in the preseason about it, but my concern is not that people are sleeping on Charlotte. My concern is that because they have such small expectations for Charlotte, they underestimate us so much. They're not going to give us the attention. They're not going to give us the coverage that they give to other clubs. And obviously, this season has been all Inter Miami coverage, but even outside of that, you see a lot about Columbus, a lot about Cincinnati. We won the season series against both of those squads. We held Miami to a draw. We have a very, very strong record against the top of the East. And Charlotte FC does not get the coverage. They do not get the respect from the national media. And that's kind of one of my pet causes here is I want Charlotte FC to be taken seriously. I want us talked
Yeah.
about alongside Columbus and alongside Cincinnati because we are at least on that level and we're doing it with less. We don't have the big name DPs. We don't have the salary budget. We have Dean Smith, who has completely outperformed. A lot of these pieces were in place last year with the previous coach. And Dean Smith has done so much more with those ingredients. He's made a souffle. He's made chicken salad, if you will. And you got to give it to Dean Smith, man. In Dean we trust. He has a strong case for Coach of the Year. But because Charlotte FC has not gotten the recognition all season long, those talking heads are just not going to consider him. And it's a shame. If we had started off with some expectations and some coverage, and they saw what Dean Smith was doing, they would have been talking about him every week on MLS 360. And we just don't have that level of coverage right now. So we have to continue to prove them wrong and outperform, just like we have done every season. They've picked us to finish 12th in our first year. We finished ninth. They picked us to finish 14th in our second year. We finished ninth. They picked us to finish 13.5 this year, and we finished fifth. So, I mean, we got to keep on keeping on and doing what we do. But I think Coach of the Year is going to go to Columbus, to Wilfred Nancy. He's a great coach, but finishing second or third overall with a squad that was picked to finish first or second overall in preseason, I don't understand how that's your Coach of the Year. That
Yeah.
doesn't like
I
he
mean,
did not do.
they made the run. They made the run in the Champions League to the final. Didn't win
Sure.
it though. And so, I mean, yeah, I agree with you.
But they make a point to say that these awards do not include any of the other tournaments. These are the MLS season awards, and that's come into play with Kalina, among others, and Messi, right? Like Messi only played half of the MLS season, and he's probably going to win MVP, which is crazy
Yeah,
to me that you have a player who's played 50% of the matches winning your top award. But I mean, I get it, I understand it, but I just don't feel like that's how that voting should go.
yeah, yeah. And so, but getting back into the match here, we'll cap this thing off. So, Charlotte comes out second half. Brett Bronico gets his first assist of the night in the 58th minute. Great ball, great dummy by Big Pat. Leaves the ball for Pep, and Pep slots it home to go up 1-0. What'd you see on that goal, man?
Yeah, I mean, that was a backbreaker, man. Breakaway, counterattack, and BL continues to impress. I have to say, you know, he showed a flash of brilliance in his first game with Charlotte FC, and then he was a little bit quiet for a few games. But I think we've talked about it with a number of other players. It takes some time to gel and get that chemistry, and it's shown in this stretch the last 5 games where we have a +10 goal differential. And you look at Pep BL, and he's just done incredible, man. I mean, he's a difference maker, and I think as a loanee on the team, quote unquote DP loanee, I really am impressed with his performance, and I think it definitely warrants a lot of attention from the front office to re-sign him. He has 2 goals so far and 3 assists on the season, so 5 goal contributions. That's nothing to sneeze at, man. I'm very impressed with Pep Biel.
I agree. I agree. Pep's been a great breath of fresh air. No disrespect to Brett DeHakre, but I think we definitely upgraded in that part of the field. So in the 60th minute, DC make two changes. The 66th make another change, and the 67th make a change. They essentially were throwing everything they could at this match, and just to promptly be put away because Brett Bronico again gets the ball on that left side of the field and makes a phenomenal pass to get another assist. This time to Big Pat himself, and Big Pat goes ahead and slots that home in the 75th minute to go up 2-0, and that was the sealer, that was the clincher, if you will. And I mean, Big Pat double digit goals this season,
That's right.
nothing to sneeze at himself.
Call
What
Pat.
do you see? What? Let me ask you this, Luke. What do you see from Big Pat to warrant what? He hasn't got the contract he wants, right?
Well,
So
we still have 2 or 3 years left on his current contract, but I think the
yeah, he had.
concern
But
is
that's what
that
I'm saying.
you got to pay Pat. You know, hashtag pay Pat.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
We still have him at league minimum. He's the best bargain in Major League Soccer. He has to be. He's getting paid literally $7,000 per goal this season. It's absurd.
Yeah,
So, hashtag pay
it is,
Pat.
and
He's earned it.
yeah, I agree, and I think Pat is an integral part of this team. He's shown that he's more than a serviceable striker. He is a good striker in this league, still developing. Um, well, Dean Smith makes some changes of his own after that. Uh, Pierre Uronen comes in for Tim Ream in the 76th minute. Jabril Gianni comes on for Junior Ursa in the 76th, also with Abada coming in for BL. And it comes in for Big Pat in the 83rd, and Jamie Patterson, like you said earlier, comes in for Kerwin in the 84th. And then just for, shits and gigs, if you will, the 90th minute, Leo Abada with a great goal, assisted by Karol Swiderski. And dude, his run into the box and to take those players on, keeper could have done better and probably should have done better, but we'll take it. And Abada gets the goal, gets to make it 3-0 Charlotte FC. And Leo Abada, here's a stat for you, Luke. Leo Abada has the most shots on target per match for Charlotte FC this season at 1.4 shots on target per match.
Man, I almost wish you had teed that up as a trivia question because I don't think I would have guessed Liel Abada for that stat. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
he is quite frankly a top five league level talent, and we're lucky to have him. I think the adjustment to MLS play has taken longer than I expected from him. I've said that before, I'll say it again. That happens with some players. I'm quite frankly shocked that it seems like the physicality of MLS is taking some time to adapt to. But once he gets the hang of it and how the pro referees call the game, I think Abada could definitely be a league leader in assists. He's that kind of guy. And he's going to contribute on goals as well. But I mean the big Pat goal, the backbreaker there. I don't know if you remember a few years ago there was an Alabama game where Lane Kiffin was the offensive coordinator, and as soon as the ball is snapped, he just signals touchdown and starts running down the sideline like the ball hasn't even been thrown
Yeah.
yet. And the ball's in the air, and you just see Lane Kiffin streaking down the sideline along with the ball because he knows it's an instant touchdown as soon as the ball is snapped. That's how I felt watching Pat. I was just like, this is in, man. Like, as soon as that play was developing, I just said, goal, goal. And then the play develops, and Big Pat gets it. And I have to think once Pep Biel got that first goal, Dean Smith is on the sideline and he sees DC just exactly where he wants them. And so he tells the team, all right, now turn it on, counterattack. And Dean Smith is just like Lane Kiffin in that situation, like this is the goal, sitting there smirking on the sideline. He has to be. Because, I mean, DC played right into our hands, completely outcoached and outclassed. And just, Troy Lassen for DC United. I'm sure he's a good manager, but this game was just a Dean Smith masterclass, start to finish.
Yeah. I'm it's in Dean we trust, man. The dude has done no wrong this season. Obviously, you know, coming into this with Latanzio leaving last season, and yeah, man, there's not enough good things you can say about the impact that Dean Smith has had and the stability that he has brought to this team. And I tell you, man, I'm ecstatic to have him back. I'm ecstatic to. I'm just ecstatic, man, that he's our coach, that he's our guy. We got our guy. Luke, real quick before we hop off of this and kind of take a look ahead, just a glimpse. Not going to dive too deep into the Orlando series just yet because we do have a interview, hopefully, fingers crossed, that's going to be coming across your airwaves soon with somebody from the Orlando City media. So, but we are going to take a look at it. But before we get off of this match, Luke, who gets the crown of the day for you for Charlotte FC?
You know what? You could give it to anybody. I think Brant Bronico was certainly the man of the match. Um, Not enough good things can be said about Brant Bronico being in form right now, but I'm going to give it to Pep Biel. I'm going to say Pep Biel gets my crown because this was a just proof of concept game for him. And I'm I think that we have the pieces in place, and this kind of reassures me going into the playoffs that having him on the wing, he looks creative. He looks like he can really take the reins on the side or in the middle. So Cole, who would you give your crown of the game to?
Yeah, man, I'm gonna go with the goalkeeper of the year. I'm gonna go with Christian Kalina. Another clean sheet, 8.4 on Foot Mob. That is his 12th clean sheet of the season. What more can you say about the Croatian Wall, man? Another just phenomenal performance. Again, soaking up that pressure in the first half. And he's going to be massive. He's going to be a massive, massive benefit to have going into postseason play down in Orlando and back in Charlotte against Orlando. But I'm going to have to give mine to the Croatian Wall.
My hot take, I think, and maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. I think this is not the last clean sheet we're going to see from Christian Kalina this season. So take that as you will.
I mean,
Good pick.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a real possibility, man. I mean, the way this defense is playing right now, they make no mistake about it. Orlando is a good team. I don't want people to, and Orlando has kind of been a thorn in our side this season. So this is not a team to take lightly. This is not a team to, think we're just going to go down to Orlando and just, do what we did to DC. It's not the case. I hope so. But I think Christian Kalina, regardless if it's a clean sheet, just the presence that he has back there and the shot stopping ability that he has is going to be integral.
Yeah, I completely agree. As far as the crowns, I think there's no shortage of players who deserve it. Brant Bronico obviously was on the MLS team of the match day. Brant Bronico is an absolute hero in our book.
So we have a massive, massive couple of weeks coming up for Charlotte FC. Obviously made the playoffs last season in the play-in game where they got thoroughly thumped by New York Red Bulls up in New Jersey. This year, missing the play-in match and going straight in as a fifth seed. I'm excited. I'm buzzing. My South Carolina Gamecocks, who just by the way beat the brakes off of Oklahoma. Just all I'm gonna
Let's
say about
go.
that. But
Incredible.
they're off this Saturday, so I have nothing to look forward to other than Charlotte FC. And then obviously, depending on the result, coming back to Charlotte Friday, November the 1st, 7:30. Be there. And I fully expect Bank of America Stadium to be absolutely raucous and a madhouse.
Yeah.
Um, I'm so excited to be there for the first ever playoff match, man. I actually took off from work to be able to be there. I'm supposed to be at the fire department that day, and I said, "There's no way on God's green earth am I missing this." So, I think Luke and I both are going to be there in a media capacity instead of a fan capacity. Be looking out for that game, and you never know, man. Charlotte FC, if they go down and beat Orlando
Yeah.
and
That
come
could
back,
be the
they could be playing. They could be playing to clinch, or if they go down there and do lose to Orlando, they're going to be playing for their lives. So either way, I'm ecstatic. Again, Orlando City this Saturday down in Orlando, leg one or game one because I guess it's best of three, but game one, game two in Charlotte, game three if necessary, we'll be back in Orlando. How you feeling, Luke? Are you pumped? Are you just beside yourself for this? Us as Charlotte FC fans, definitely if you've been here from the beginning, before when the COVID year, when we were supposed to have a team, it didn't happen. And then you get in there with Miguel Angel Ramirez, and then you get Christian Latanzio, and now we got the one and only Dean Smith. And it just in our third year of existence, this club it finishes fifth, is thoroughly into the playoffs with a real opportunity to go deep and make a deep run. Nobody in the East scares me. We just went to Inter Miami a couple weeks ago, down in Miami, and drew them and had our opportunities to win that game. How you feeling, Luke?
then it's kind of weird because I feel like coming into our current situation, the biggest game in Charlotte FC history was probably on decision day last year against Miami when Messi came to town and we clinched the playoffs. I feel like that was the biggest game in our history.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think there's without a doubt the home game, Friday Night Lights, November 1st, Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America Stadium. That is going to be the biggest game, not only in Charlotte FC history, but Charlotte sports history for at least the last 9, 10 years. And I don't think
Yeah,
there's any doubt. I mean, there is no question, regardless of what happens between now and then, that is going to be the biggest game, period. So I'm excited. I'm thrilled, but I'm not just glad to be here. I think we earned it. We have felt like a playoff team this entire season, whether we were getting the
yeah,
recognition for it or not. This team has felt like they are a playoff caliber team. We deserve our seating. We deserve to be here. And that's a really good feeling. So you asked me how I feel. I feel satisfied, man. I feel like we've earned it. The players on the pitch have earned it, and they're coming together at the right moment here. They are the chemistry is clicking. They're coming out guns blazing, going into the MLS playoffs. And Dean said it best, and we've said it a few times tonight. I would not want to play against this team because how do you do it? What is the game plan for beating Charlotte? Is it? I mean, it's have a world class goal, but if you cannot rely on players to consistently hit world class goals, for the rest of us mere mortals, how do you take down Charlotte FC? I just don't know how you do it because that back line is incredible. And now we have a midline, a second group of four further up the field who are playing tremendously well with chemistry, and they are locking down and eliminating that midfield possession. Other teams have to play to our style at this point, and that's scary. If I'm an opposing coach,
yeah,
what do you do to break that down? I don't know.
yeah. And Orlando City again, they're going to give it their best shot. And again, guys, be looking out. Yeah, we've had Eddie from the Lions Den podcast from Orlando City on the show multiple times the past couple of seasons. Hopefully, we can get Eddie back on to preview this series. He's a great follow. Knows Orlando City better than anybody that I know. So I'm very excited, hopefully, to get him back on. Even if he doesn't come back on, me and Luke will have a preview specific episode, regardless. And yeah, I'm so ready. I'm ready for Saturday. I just I haven't been this nervous in a long time for a match. Maybe when the U.S. is in the World Cup, I get this nervous for a match.
Right,
It's
right.
up there, man.
You're
I'm
feeling the nerves. Well, let's
excited.
shift gears. Since we're feeling the nerves on this one, obviously FC is the crown jewel of Charlotte soccer, but this is a crown that is coming fully loaded. This is more like the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet right now, where you just have the Infinity Stones, and Charlotte FC may be the Power Stone, but you got the Reality Stone and the Time Stone out there. You got Charlotte Independence, which has clinched their playoff spot. There's one match day remaining, but Charlotte Independence is locked in, and they are definitely going to be playing in the playoffs. I think it's down to either Northern Colorado Hailstorm, which I think is most likely going to be their first round opponent, or Forward Madison. Both teams we kind of have a history with because they're often towards the top of the table. You'll remember Charlotte Independence was leading the league for a while around midseason, but Independence is kicking some ass right now when they're healthy. Their biggest challenge is remaining healthy and keeping the players on the pitch. So if they can get some pieces back and in working order, I think they can make a pretty good run. How about the Greenville Triumph? Have you been following their playoff situation here?
Yeah, so we'll get into this in a second, but there was two matches last night that I was thoroughly fixed on. One was the Greenville Triumph, who did lose last night, and the other
The
was
Fuego, right?
Crown Legacy. What's that? Yeah, yeah, they got beat by a header. It wasn't the. I'm trying to think of. It wasn't the best game to watch for neutral for sure. Only two shots on target for Greenville. They did dominate in possession, but yeah, Fuego they in the 82nd minute with a header go ahead 1-0 and see the game out. So the Triumph have clinched, so they're obviously in the playoffs.
Well, just to jump
But
in
yeah,
here, and not to get too sidetracked, but Have you been following or have you been aware of the situation with Fuego right now?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is interesting. I think maybe the listeners will find it interesting too. Uh, we would normally not be talking about a team out of California in USL One on the show, but Fuego before the season was um, taken over by Jermaine Jones from the U.S. national team, and there were some waves right off the bat where he basically said nobody on the roster was qualified to be on the team. Basically saying USL one players can't ball, and the Fuego players in particular, none of them met his standard to be on a soccer roster. Really making some waves right off the bat, and the reaction of the media, the USL one space was very much like, "Who does this guy think he is? Like just coming in and." They're not great, but anytime you take over a team, it's like Deion Sanders without the polish, right? He's coming
Yeah.
in, he's bringing his own luggage and it's Gucci. Well, Jermaine Jones is like Kirkland brand. So he didn't quite have that luggage coming in. Um, so it was a really weird situation, and they've struggled. They've been bottom of the table. They've not looked like a good squad. Uh, Within the past week, it's come out that Jones was relieved of his duties in August, I believe, and he's under investigation by multiple governing bodies. I think it's USL and the US Soccer Federation. Both have investigations on him for inappropriate workplace conduct, having a hostile workplace. Multiple players have filed complaints against him. There's like HR issues. It's a mess over with Fuego. And this all broke within the last week. He's not in the facilities. He's not associated with the team anymore. But man, uh, for Fuego to come out and get a win right after that news broke against Greenville, I think that shocked the entire USL soccer sphere because they're just going through it. And it seems like that kind of rally around the flag effect, right? Like everybody's against us. All you got is those guys in the locker room with you, interim coach, and they managed to get a huge win the other night. So I think that was a big kind of underdog story for the league. And you hate to see teams go through that. Like I think the San Diego women's team with Jill Ellis in charge was facing a
Mm,
lot of hostile workplace allegations. Soccer's
yeah.
changing, sports in general is changing. There's no place for that in the sports world. It's not that this generation is softer, it's that they're more willing to stand up for themselves. And you played sports, I played sports growing up. You don't want to leave your team and your sporting event or even like practice and feel like shit and feel bad about yourself. And you don't want be a part of that team and have that impact be negative on your life, right? You want that to be an uplifting experience, and you want to have that camaraderie. And win or lose, it's a brotherhood or a sisterhood, whatever it may be. But there's no place for the toxicity or abuse in the sporting world. So, cheers to Fuego. They're obviously not making the playoffs. Triumph have clinched, but I just thought that was a story worth highlighting. That
Yeah, I did not know that. But speaking of name recognition, we haven't covered this yet on the podcast. Ronaldinho. Have you seen this, Luke?
What? All right, so I need you to
Ronaldinho
tell
is
me. I saw the headline, but I didn't dig in. I saw the headline and I closed my laptop. I didn't. Tell me about this. What's going on?
so we all know who Ronaldinho is. I mean, superstar for Brazil. He essentially he was Messi's mentor when Messi first got to Barcelona. And I mean, he's obviously he was one of the best players, and still is. I mean, he is one of the best players of all time. He's up there in the conversation with R9 and Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. I say all that to say he's bought a stake in Greenville Triumph, and which is just mind blowing how he could hear about this little old team in Greenville, South Carolina. But which I just found that odd, but awesome at the same time.
Man, that is truly. I mean, of all the headlines I expected to see when I opened up Twitter, I think it was the first thing I saw on Twitter when I opened my phone in the morning one day was this Ronaldinho news. My lord, congratulations, first of all, to you and to the Greenville Triumph.
He joins the ownership group of the Greenville Triumph and the Liberty. So he is part owner of the Greenville Triumph and the Greenville Liberty, the female side for Greenville, and which is just Absolutely insane, man. It
Yeah,
really is.
I'm jealous, man. I'm so
Um,
jealous.
yeah. So, but anyways, the Triumph do have one more game this season. It's the regular season finale at Paladin Stadium in Greenville. They'll be taking on their rivals, the I-85 Derby, if you will, Greenville Triumph and South Georgia Tormenta. And yeah, man, Greenville's looking to get back into winning ways before they head into the USL League One playoffs. And speaking of playoffs, Luke, we had a massive playoff match last night.
Huge.
Eight-seeded Crown Legacy played against FC Cincinnati 2, the number one seed. Who, let's keep in mind, we talked about this on our last episode, but you MLS Next Pro, they get to choose who they play if you're a top seed,
That's
and they
right.
chose to pick Crown Legacy. And Crown Legacy goes up to Cincinnati in a phenomenal. If you didn't watch this match, man, you
It was the game.
completely missed out. This was a phenomenal match. Definitely the last 20 minutes of this. You got Adunze just standing on his head all match, the keeper for Crown Legacy. He finally gets beat with, I think it was like the 82nd, 83rd minute, something like that. And then just back to back. And I mean, just a few minutes later, Crown Legacy equalizes, and then in stoppage time in the 91st minute, Tiger Smalls with an absolute golazo to go up 2-1, and Crown Legacy go up to FC Cincinnati, take pictures in front of the banner that says Kings of the Queen City to let them know where the Queen City is, Luke.
That's right. The real Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina. No, no more of this Queen Cincinnatus. I think we all know
Yeah.
that's just a weird nickname to have for that city. But you know what? We don't put chili on our spaghetti, and you know, bring it back home to Charlotte, man, the land of barbecue, and the Crown Legacy gets it done. Very excited for them. They move on to the next round, and Cincinnati got to choose their opponent. Last year, the number one seed had a first round bye, and that was Crown Legacy, the number one overall seed in the East. And the second round, they played Columbus Crew. If you'll remember, that was heartbreaking because Crown Legacy is
Yeah.
the number
Yeah.
one overall seed. They had 30 shots in the game. 30. Columbus had six, and Crown Legacy went home as the number one overall seed. So this is a little bit of an Uno reverse card. We give it back to the state of Ohio. Cincinnati takes that L, and Crown Legacy moves on. So survive and advance,
Yep.
baby. Then it was quite a game. I'm watching on my cell phone as I'm, you know, doing work and taking care of errands and stuff. And this game just had me on my toes the entire time. Crown Legacy honestly looked outmatched for the majority of this game, but they came in when it counted, clutch at the end of the game, and just turned it on. Um, it's not about in soccer who looks better for the first 60 minutes, right? It's who wins the game and scores the goals. And Crown Legacy got it done. Adunze had some incredible saves. The defense looked really solid. Can't wait to see their next how they advance. I'd love to get an MLS Next Pro championship under our belts.
Yeah, and they'll be playing this Saturday. The time is to be determined, but they'll be playing against Chicago FC United.
Crown
Yep.
Legacy playing on Saturday and Charlotte FC playing on Sunday. A little bit of reversey from our normal scheduling. Charlotte's on Sunday. I'm actually considering, you know, if things fall into place, maybe going down to Orlando for that game. Tickets, last I heard, were starting at $20 to get in the building. It might be cheaper to travel to Orlando, buy a ticket and see the game than it would be just to go to Bank of America. So, um, yeah, we'll see if we can swing that for Sunday. But if not, I hear that Charlotte FC has an official tailgate in the works, just like we did last year for the Red Bull game. They took over Camp North End. I hear that the club has a official watch party plan. Stay tuned for that. We'll post it on our social media once we get confirmation. Um, I'm sure there'll be thousands of people showing up again this year, just like there was last year, and it'll be the biggest party in Charlotte that night.
Luke, Carolina Ascent played again. How'd
I'll
they
tell you
do?
what, man. So they had back-to-back games against Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is sitting second or third in the league. And obviously, our Carolina Ascent still undefeated, only wins and draws on the season. And they drew against Brooklyn up north, and then the return fixture back here at American Legion Memorial Stadium. turned out in their favor 2-0, and it was never close. Ascent dominated this game, and it could have been 5-0, but Brooklyn's keeper just stood on her head. If you guys have not had a chance, it's really cool. The USL Super League, it's a brand new women's professional league. Charlotte has a team, the Carolina Ascent. They have the best kits of any soccer team in the Carolinas, hands down. They sell them in men's sizes. Honestly, that is next up on my list of kits to acquire for myself. If anybody wants to put it on a Christmas gift list, that's what I'm asking for this year. I want an Ascent jersey. Um, Incredible. It looks like the sunset over the mountains in Western North Carolina. So, um, gotta love it. They're called the Ascent, like a mountain ascent, and the supporters are called the Trailblazers. Shout out to the Mech Reserves and the other Trailblazers that are out there at Legion. This team is dominant, man. I'm telling you, they have pedigree, they have class, they have veterans, and they also have youth. So Vicky is the captain of the team. She's doing phenomenal. She has goals, and she's leading by example on the pitch. But against Brooklyn, we had a 14-year-old take the pitch, and it was really cool. I think it actually set the record for USL Super League for youngest player. She had a great appearance. We had another player get her first goal on the season. It's been quite a season, man. And if you've not been out to one of the games yet at the American Legion Memorial Stadium, I got out there for the first game, the kickoff of the season, the kickoff of the league. It was a sellout, almost 11,000 people in attendance. The atmosphere is completely unlike anything else. It is so chill. There's more women than men in attendance, but there's still a lot of guys. Like you can bring your family. I'm planning on taking my two young boys with me to see a game. They had a giveaway this past weekend. It was the Oktoberfest game, so they were doing a beer stein giveaway. They're doing just tremendous, and the football is fun to watch on the pitch too. The style of play is very entertaining. So if you like the U.S. women's team, we have a pro team here in Charlotte that plays at a professional level, and they are really representing the Queen City. So you love to see it. I highly recommend it if you have the chance. Definitely get out and see that team.
Yeah,
And I mean, first
and
place in the league, like they're in line for bringing home a championship this year. It may be the first soccer championship in Charlotte. So get in now while you can.
yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. But look, we're going to kind of transition into the MLS playoffs just for a second. We got the play-in game tomorrow night for the Eastern Conference. You got Atlanta United facing Montreal
Ooh,
going up to Canada,
how do you feel about that, Cole?
which
How do you feel about that
you
matchup?
got Joseph Martinez for Montreal. Obviously, I don't want Atlanta United to win anything, so I would be okay with them losing. I did
Montreal is
like
hot
what
right now, man. Montreal is undefeated in their last five, I believe.
yeah, that's what I was getting ready to
Except for
say is
Charlotte.
like Charlotte, Montreal is a team that you do not want to see right now. And you know, I like what social Charlotte FC socials tweeted out of Thanos when Atlanta clinched. They said, and it was because Charlotte beating DC United.
Right.
They said you could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Right back here to me. And just top tier content, man. And then in the Western Conference, your playing game, you have the Vancouver Whitecaps and the Portland Timbers, and Portland traveling up to Canada for that one. Yeah, man, I'm excited. And by the way, I meant to say this earlier. The match Sunday down in Orlando will also, if you don't have Apple TV, which you should, if you don't, then it's going to be actually streamed or actually going to be on FS1. So
Nice.
you'll be able to
National
watch it
game.
on FS1 as well. Yep.
So I'm looking
So
right now. It looks like, I mean, we'll talk about the game, but it looks like Orlando, they're giving a 64% chance to win the home game.
yeah.
Charlotte FC, it's a plus 310 on the odds. With the formatting, there's not going to be a draw. It'll go to extra time and shootouts, but there's no draw. There's going to be a winner in every playoff game.
Yep. And best of three series. Honestly, I wish it would just go back to just playing the two legs. That
Right.
I enjoy that more. Just I guess from watching European football or soccer my whole life, I just kind of like the two leg idea.
I like that too. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't like it. But yeah, just moving on from the playoffs, I think on Sunday it's going to be a very interesting one. I'm absolutely going to be watching this the wild card game. I think Montreal has that easily. I don't think it's even going to be close. Atlanta's lucky to make it, but I don't think they have the gas in the tank to beat a team like Montreal that's in form right now. I'm concerned about Messi because if we advance past Orlando, we have to play the other team from Florida if they survive the winner of the wild card game. So my hope is that Montreal beats Atlanta and then Montreal takes it to Inter Miami and pulls the biggest upset in Major League Soccer so that we get to play Montreal again in the second round.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
All right, man. Well, hey, that does it for me. The one thing that I had left on my agenda to talk about was Western North Carolina relief. And you tell me, do you have time right now to talk a little bit about the situation in Western North Carolina and your experiences?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just going to turn it over to you, man. Can you kind of walk me through what your last month has looked like here?
Yeah. So obviously, as if you've been listening to this podcast for any time, you know that I'm a firefighter in upstate South Carolina. I actually was on shift the day the hurricane came through here in South Carolina. So for 48 hours, I was here dealing with, because make no mistake, Western North Carolina took the brunt of landslides and flooding and all that good stuff. South Carolina took the brunt of the winds, the way the storm was set up. So upstate South Carolina got devastated by trees down, power lines down. Just, I mean, it's not as bad as North Carolina, but it still was something we haven't seen in a very 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 long time here. So just dealing with all of that, getting trees off of houses, off of cars, power lines, all that good stuff. Um, and then we actually sent a team. So the way it works in the state of South Carolina, we have 6 task force teams, and they specialize in different things. Um, and the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It just depends on where you're at and where you're based out of in the state of South Carolina. So, excuse me, we sent Task Force 1 and Task Force 3 up to Western North Carolina for just honestly, we have a HART team, which is a helicopter aquatic response team. We have a USAR team, which is an urban search and rescue team, and that's essentially what it sounds like. Is essentially what it was. It was going up there, and specifically where we were at was the Old Fort region and Sewanee, and right outside of Asheville, and the devastation. I don't know where the listeners are at. I would assume most are in North Carolina in some capacity, whether that's Western North Carolina, the Queen City or whatever. But if you have not been to Western North Carolina since Helene has come through, it's hard to put into words, or even I got pictures and videos from when I was up there. It's hard to put into words exactly what it did, and this is going to take years to clean up. It's going to take, and a lot of the stuff. Hate how when something like this happens, everything gets turned political.
Yeah,
And I understand to a degree, but at the same time, these are humans, and this isn't just halfway around the world. This is in our backyard, and we seeing firsthand the local government, the state government, step up and do whatever it took to move trees, to get trees off of houses, to look for people who are missing, to find people who are missing, to find dead bodies, to find kids, the stuff that we seen up there. It's to now be exploited for political reasons. Honestly for me is just it's sickening. But you know, there's still a long way to go. There's still going to be there's still a lot of people missing. I think the official narrative that's like being reported on the news and stuff is like maybe like close to like 90 people missing.
right.
That's not the case. I'm just going to go out there and tell you now. If you've been to Asheville, North Carolina, you know that Asheville has a very, very high homeless population.
Yep.
These people are not accounted for, and they're not going to be on any nobody. Sounds harsh, but it's a fact and it's the truth. Nobody is looking for a lot of these people. There's no one looking for them,
Right.
so they don't know that they're missing. And it
I mean, Cole,
there's going to be a lot.
if I could jump
Yeah,
in real quick, just culturally, people that live in the mountains in Western North Carolina, in West Virginia, Appalachia in general, like the people who choose to live there fall into a few categories. One of those categories are people who want to be off the grid, people who don't
yep,
want to be found, because it's one
yep,
of the last areas of the country where you can be anonymous and you can do your own thing. And this is not a stereotype, this is a fact. It has not been this way recently. It's been this way for hundreds of years. Okay, that this is a core part of the mountain identity is self-sufficiency, living on your own, being off the grid. And there's the history that you know of in the Carolinas with moonshiners and bootleggers, but it's more than just that. It's a lot more. So just to back up what you're saying, like that is part of the identity of the mountains. And
yeah,
the official
and
narrative to
not
be
just that,
90
man.
people
These
is crazy.
these people also. I mean, these areas are not prepared for a hurricane. They just aren't. We can prepare for we Western North Carolina specifically can prepare for snowstorms and stuff because they get it.
Right.
We don't get hurricane. They don't. We may get some wind and some rain off of a hurricane here and there,
And flooding.
but we
I
don't
mean,
take.
there's some
Oh,
flooding because there are lakes, there are dams, like they're designed for a certain
yeah,
level of flood.
yeah. We don't take and we don't take the brunt of a category 2 or 3 hurricane head on like we did, and so it's still It's a devastating area. The
Well,
stuff
so
the pick just
let me jump in real quick. The mountains are not prepared for a hurricane. What does that mean? Well, the coast is ready for a hurricane because they get hurricanes. The mountains are the exact opposite. You're talking 5 to 8 hours away from the coast. They're not prepared for that level of wind. They're not prepared for that level of rain. And what a lot of people don't realize is that there was another rainstorm that came through and saturated the ground within a week before that hurricane hit. And it was already near record levels of, water and water levels within the lakes and rivers in that region. And then the hurricane dumped historic levels on top of that. So you talk about
yeah,
preparedness. The records were not set by like 1% or 1 inch more than they'd ever gotten. It was 10 feet more than they'd gotten in some areas, 20 feet
yeah,
more than they had ever gotten in 120 years, which is when they started measuring this. You're talking about 10, 20 feet. That's one story of a building higher than it has ever been. Okay. Like you cannot anticipate that. Nothing is prepared for that. And so then you talk about not only
yeah,
the
and
flash flooding, but mudslides. You talk about trees coming down. The amount of devastation that, I mean, you can speak more to the devastation, but the amount of natural occurrences, it's not just rain, it's not just water, it's everything else that accompanies it. And then the infrastructure's gone because all of those events take out all of the power lines, the cell phone towers, the water supply, the sewer. So it's cascading effects that add up on top of each other to make it a what would have been a once in a lifetime natural disaster. But then you look at the climate situation, and this could happen again in the next 10, 20 years. So they have to build back more resilient than they were to begin with. So I'll kick it back to you, but just perspective on this. It's not one thing. It's not just the hurricane. It's everything else that layered after that, right?
yeah, and I mean the flooding was so bad that as we're walking down streets or wading down streets, you can see where the water levels were, and you can see people's possessions in the tops of trees. We seen people in the tops of trees. We've seen animals in the tops of trees because that's how bad the flooding was. And like just to speak to the landslides, I mean, it's a mountain. These are mountain areas, so people build a house on a mountain, and then what do they do? About 40, 50 feet above that, they build another house. About
Right.
40 to 50 feet above that, they build. And then when a landslide happens, you got a house collapsing onto another house, collapsing onto another house, going to the bottom of a ravine. And so it's again, words can't do it justice. But I will say the response from locals and supplies and all that stuff, man, has been there's warehouses slap full of supplies now. The only thing that I've heard of that they're still kind of needing is water. Um, Other than that, man, I think they're pretty. I mean, from the last I heard, that they have enough. They have enough like
For months, months
essentials
of
to
distribution.
last for yeah for a while. So big ups to everybody. I know Luke took some supplies, and they had a and we had a lot of listeners, contribute to that. So thank y'all for that.
Yeah, huge thank you
And
guys.
yeah, man, yeah, 100%. It makes a difference. I don't
Shout
want y'all
out
to think that
to
it doesn't, because it definitely.
shout out to Hopfly Brewing. They partnered with us, but they also partnered with a number of other local breweries. They were networking donation sites. So we were able to take up, I think, let's see, altogether probably 6 or 7 vehicle loads of supplies, and they still had 10 pallets of supplies left over that were scheduled for delivery. So I mean, Hopfly is a tremendous partner in this. We did a raffle giveaway of Charlotte FC memorabilia, Hopfly gift cards that they donated. Um, just it's not that they're doing something extraordinary. It's that they're doing what they can. And
Yeah.
so many people here in the Carolinas have done what they can, and it adds up. And thank you guys, just everybody who has been loading up planes and helicopters and vehicles to get in there. Um, what I'm hearing is the bottleneck is still, to an extent, distribution. So I want to kind of transition to how can the people right now, Cole, help out with, um, what can people do if they want to help out at this point?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I'm if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think that there's a whole lot they can do anymore. FEMA's kind of stepped in, and FEMA, again, I'm not getting political. This is just a fact. FEMA is turning people away. I do know that even people with FEMA IDs are still getting turned away if they're local government and stuff. So realistically, I'm not sure. Again, the last I'd heard, the main thing was they were needing water, specifically in towns like Old Fort and Sewan. I can't ever pronounce it, but Sewanee or whatever it's
Yeah,
called.
Swanee.
And uh, yeah, so but I don't think that they're not allowing anybody in now. So I think the hard work as far as the response is over. Now it's just rebuilding. And again, I don't think that there's going to be much that the general public's going to be able to do, unfortunately, because I don't think that they're going to be allowed to.
So I'll jump in, and I'm just reading off of some of the public talking points here, but FEMA is saying they've paid out 129 million in individual assistance. Um, the federal agency has 1,500 staffers on the ground who are supporting the relief effort, and they're also providing temporary housing to 5,300 people. FEMA is on the ground. So, I mean, they are
Yep.
doing the work that they're designed to do. And I think a lot of the misinformation, the rumors, the conspiracy theories are from people who don't understand what FEMA is. And from growing up in Alabama and being around FEMA after hurricanes and tornadoes, everything I've seen in the situation just strikes me as this is what FEMA has always been. This is how they're designed to operate. There is a lot of bureaucracy, there is a lot of red tape. They have immediate assistance available for people, 750 bucks, which is designed to be gas money, get a little bit of hotel, some food, some water. Like it's designed for the immediate needs while you apply for more assistance, which is where that 129 million comes in. Is You're still applying for your housing assistance and the additional programs they offer, but just in the meantime, while you're going through all that red tape, they give you a little like immediate payment. Um, so I mean, the misinformation though, we're in an election season, and nothing would please the enemies of our country more than to see us fighting amongst ourselves over a situation which is so close to the hearts and close to the emotions and the feelings of everybody, right? So I would just urge everybody to take a step back from some of these headlines. When you see something that seems crazy and unbelievable, just take a step back and ask yourself, like, is it crazy and unbelievable? Maybe it's not accurate. And maybe I should take it with a grain of salt and take a deep breath and look for other sources before I pass judgment on something. But the state national guard, the local governments, they're all on the ground, and that is the government, man. That's the military, the state, local response. That is the majority of the government, right? Like it's like a pyramid. The widest layer is at the bottom, and the politics, the big talking points, the things that people are watching Fox News and CNN, all of that affects the very top part of that pyramid, but the vast majority of what goes on in your everyday life is that local government layer. It's these towns, the counties. They're the ones who are doing the majority of the response. Like, am I off base on that?
I mean, you're 100% right. So what I was going to say though is here's what happens when a disaster like this happens. You have the local government, the local, sheriff's office, fire departments, EMS, and then you have state teams for state North Carolina, North Carolina task force teams, North Carolina USAR teams, and then what they'll do is they'll do an all call for South Carolina. So usually it's your neighboring states, so South
Right,
Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. So you're going to have them come in. So you already have local government and state government working. They usually work pretty good together because they train together pretty frequently.
right,
The
right.
the issue usually comes when the federal government comes because we don't do a lot of training with the federal government. So when the federal government comes in, it gets how to put this. It's more of
Messy.
a miscommunication and a lack of training, and just honestly, it's just a lack of knowing how to communicate and how because the local government and the state government has a specific way they're doing things. They're already set up in place, and they're already doing things. And then the federal government comes in, and they have a specific way that they're going to do things. And so, honestly, this is going to sound bad, but it's the truth. It turns into a little bit of a pissing contest
It does.
about
Yep.
how the most and it's not. I'm not saying it in a bad way because what they're doing is they're trying to think of and collaborate and do what they think is the most effective way to help people. So at the end of the day, they are trying to help people. They're not. It's not
Yeah.
like they're going out here neglecting people. It's just they're going about it separate ways, and so you that's where the kind of and again, because one agent from FEMA is being a douchebag and not doing something that they should be doing, like letting people in to help out and stuff like that. Does it? That's not you. Can't. They don't represent all of the FEMA employees. The same thing with the state government. If
Right.
there are bad people out there. Make no mistake, and but
An,
they don't
an
represent
assistant
every.
fire marshal in Lake Lure who's turning away helicopters, taking people out. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
happens
one
at the
person,
local level.
he does not work there anymore. He has been relieved of his duties.
Yeah,
So
you got to
just
be.
we'll just leave that at that.
Yeah. But like you're saying
He's been
though,
relieved of his duties.
it turns into a pissing contest because you have people who are in charge of their own organizational structure and they're used to being in charge, and you have these dominant personalities and within their own reporting structures, big fish in small ponds, and then
Yep.
they get exposed to a small fish in a big pond, and you get these little clashes because they're not used to communicating together. So it's human nature. You try to like carve out your own authority. And if you've dealt with a lot of local governments, the biggest egos you'll ever meet in your life are probably within some local governments nearby you. People who want to be the king of their little castle. And an event like
Yep.
this brings together people who would usually never be in contact with one another. So There's going to be
Yeah,
conflict. There's going to be some friction at some different communication points. Um, the misinformation, TikTok is spreading a lot of this. The conspiracy theories, I don't want to get too far into them, but I mean, there's a reason that TikTok is banned from federal devices, right? Like,
yeah,
that's where a lot of the misinformation is coming from. I don't know. I don't know what that algorithm is amplifying. I know I use TikTok. I know you don't. I use TikTok, and I'm seeing a wide swath of content about the events. People who are on the ground who have very strong opinions. As somebody who has very strong opinions myself, I know that when I'm running my mouth and I'm in the heat of the moment, I don't always have the same opinion as a few days later when I have a chance to take a step back and really examine a larger situation. So,
yeah.
um,
But yeah, I mean, realistically, man, like I said, I just want to thank everybody. My main thing is getting on here and just telling everybody thank you for the support and the help of getting supplies and helping Luke out. As Luke was coordinating all that, it does mean a lot. It
yeah,
really does, and y'all made a difference. So pat yourself on the back. And we got the best listeners in the world. This is why y'all are why we do this podcast. Y'all are why we take we don't get, believe it or not, we're not a massive podcast that's getting paid. This is not our full time jobs.
right.
So we take the time out of our days, obviously because we love soccer and we love this club, and so that's that's our passion. But make no mistake, we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to have media credentials and be able to get into the games to be able to get y'all content and stuff like that if it wasn't for you guys tuning in. And y'all stepped up in a big way when it really mattered. So I just want to get on here and say thank you.
Yes. So if you want to help us out, you know, go to SeatGeek, sign up for an account, use the code QCS Pod, save $20 on your first ticket to any sporting event that you want to go to. That includes the Charlotte FC playoff game here at Bank of America Stadium. If you want to buy some real estate, hit us up. I can help you out with that, North and South Carolina. Um, if you want to help support Western North Carolina, one thing you can do right now, check the North Carolina DOT website for roads that are open in North Carolina. But there is a route open where you can go check out the changing fall leaves, the colors, and have one of the most pretty scenic drives of your life outside of the main highways, the main interstates that are closed. There is a route that is open with towns that are actively open and seeking tourism. So make sure to check that list. Stop at the downtown areas where they are open. Make sure to gas up before you go, and support those local economies, those local businesses that are opening back up, those local business owners that are trying to make it after this devastating storm. There are places where you can go and spend your tourism money. The places that are closed, please leave them alone. You can volunteer with local aid organizations like Samaritan's Purse. You can find local groups that are going up there that have a designated task. And it may not be exactly what you want to do or what you have in mind, but they will let you know how you can help. And you can volunteer with those local groups and they will help you out. Donating to a group like the Red Cross, that's great if it is something like your blood, your plasma, things that people in need will immediately get. If it's something like money, my recommendation, and this is me personally, I would recommend that you coordinate a monetary donation with a local on the ground group who can direct your money to the people in need. And it's not going to go to pay CEOs' salaries or a giant nonprofit or go to somewhere thousands of miles away. Keep it local, keep it within the community. And that's the same thing with your tourism money. When you go there, don't stop at McDonald's for lunch. Stop at the local cafe, the local diner. Support the people who are living there on the ground who can directly use your funds. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful time of year in the mountains, and this should be a celebratory time of year, a tourism time of year. They're losing a lot of money, not just from the disaster damage, but from lost tourism. So absolutely can help you. You can go back into the mountains. You can help people directly. There is hope, but just make sure that you do your research ahead of time. Places that are open, places that are accepting visitors. So I just want to throw that in there too, Cole.
Yeah, 100%.
We have the concert for Western North Carolina Relief at Bank of America Stadium, the ultimate crossover. Luke Combs, shout out. He's a North Carolina local boy, and he helps organize this relief effort.
Yeah, so you got like Luke Combs, Eric Church, you got
Yeah.
Scotty McCreery, just a bunch of local Chase Bryce, a bunch of people from Western North Carolina. I will say I'm pretty sure the concert sold out immediately.
Oh yeah.
So, but you can, I think they're playing like you can pay $25. I can't remember the streaming service, but you can pay 20 if you can Google it. But there's 20 you pay $25 and watch it on TV, and those proceeds also go back to Western North Carolina.
I love it, man. Hey, folks are coming together, and this region is not just going to need help right now. This is kind of second or third wave help. It's going to be going on for months and years to come. I cannot wait to get up to see a game in Boone, a football game. I would love to. That's on my list right now. Top priority as far as sporting events. I want to get up there when they're ready, when they're hosting games, and I got up there for the first time in February of this year. I want to support the folks up there and then do a little road trip around to some of these other areas that are open now. Do some antique shopping if there's any place I can do that. Um, grab a coffee, get a little diner meal. There's so many things you can do in these small mountain towns and just enjoy the drive, enjoy the view.
Yeah, no, man. I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head when it comes to getting back up into the towns that you can get to and helping small businesses out because they need it. Again, just thank you all for stepping up and what you did and what you continue to do. And I couldn't be more proud to be a Carolinian.
Hell yeah. Man, I think that's as good a way as any to end things. Carolina's just look around. The way that we show up for one another, that's the way it should be all the time, every day, right? Like show up for your neighbors. When somebody needs something, if you have the ability to help, step in and do that. Not for any expectation of gain, but just because you can, because it's the right thing to do. Step up, do the right thing, because that's who we are as Carolinians, right? So we got an exciting soccer schedule lined up here in the near future.
Yeah, man. Again, guys, just be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at QCS Pod, at LVL_Luke, and at Cole_Godfrey, Instagram, and then YouTube. Check out our YouTube and TikTok. Other than that, man, yes, for the crown.
For the crown.